block of the week. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So the block that we're doing today is this one. It is our block 9, and it is a little bit terrifying looking at it like that. It looks a little bit terrifying. I'm not going to take it away. I promise. It looks a bit scary. But I promise you, it is nowhere near as bad as you think it is. So this is the block we're going to be making. We have got 3 different colorways on it. We've got our blues colorway over here. We've got our brights colorway here. And we've got a vintage colorway. I'll show you. Most of you know what the vintage colorway looks like because it's been our most popular colorway. Look at how beautiful this is. So each week you are going to get a panel like that with all 4 of your colors on. And when you're doing your pattern, you will see that on each of these fabrics, I'm going to put them like this, and if I fold this correctly, hopefully I'll be able to show you exactly what I'm showing, what I mean. Right. So each week you're going to get a different amount of fabric of each of the fabrics that we have. So you'll be able to see that when we get them, each one of them will be labelled. So it doesn't matter if you're getting the blue, the vintage, or the brights, it doesn't matter. There's fabric 1, there's fabric 2, there's fabric 3, and down the bottom here is fabric 4. Now, why is that important, I hear you say? So what I'm going to do there is you'll see there's fabric 1. That's our cutting plan on fabric 1. That's our cutting plan on fabric 2, 3, 4, and what that means is when I tell you to cut out fabric 3, my fabric 3 on the vintage way is green, but on my brights and blues colorway it'll be totally different. So don't worry about it. As long as you learn your fabrics 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3 and 4, you should be absolutely fine. Now my top tip for each and every single week is cut off that little section where it says fabric 3 or 1, 2 and 4 and attach it to your pattern, because it's going to make your life a lot easier knowing that is what fabric 1, 2, 3 and 4 mean, because most of us are going to do the project then and there. Wonderful, done, sorted, quilt in a week, sorted. However, a lot of us don't have time to do it, so we'll cut it all out and 2, 3 weeks, 10 weeks, 4 years later go back and go, what is he talking about? What's fabric 4? And you've already cut fabric 1, 2, 3 and 4 off your panel. So please attach them to your patterns. It makes your life a lot easier. So that is our vintage colorway. The brights colorway is this, so you'll see. So I think the brights is one of the best. I absolutely love this, and it's definitely Liam's favorite, our producer. And you can see, look how beautiful that is, and very, very vibrant. But equally, we've got our lovely blues colorway here as well. And you can see that's the star there. But I see I'm loving a blue, but I won't deny the more I've done this, because most of my demos have been with the brights, I've really enjoyed them. But my favorite, the favorite one with all of you is the vintage. So there we go. What do I know? Now, each week when you buy this, you're going to get the wonderful set of instructions. You get the front and the back. Most weeks it's 1 page. Next week is not. It's quite a few pages. And then you're going to have your panel that goes with it as well. So each week you're getting that. That's $11.99. So not only are you getting the pattern and the panel of fabric, you've also got a demonstration by me each week, and that will then be pulled out every single time to be able to show you exactly what you're doing each week, where my ups and downs. Sorry, it gives you all my tips and things and where things go wrong, and it'll be a separate hour on the YouTube channel as well. So that's a great resource for you to have as well, because a lot of the time when you do a block of the month, you don't get a tutorial, and when you do get a tutorial, it's normally live and in person. Unfortunately, we can't do that either at the minute, but it just means then that if you forget what it was, at least with having this, it's available. It's a pulled out separate section on the YouTube channel, and you'll easily be able to go and find that. And then don't forget as well, we've got our blue colorway. That's on the screen at the moment, so you're getting the wonderful panel as well as the pattern again. And that's all ready to go. So we're already on block 9. If you haven't started already, please don't worry. We have been very clever. And you can buy all of them individually, or you can go and buy our block 1 to 9 of all the panels in all the different colorways. You can buy them individually as a single block, and then you're only paying the 1 postage as well. It's a really, really great way of being able to catch up if you haven't been involved so far and you want to now get involved. There's a wonderful, so we can see now, I love this. So this is our vintage colorway. So you can see all the blocks that we've done. You can see block number 1, 7, 5 across the top line. Then we've got 4, 3, and next one is number 12. That's coming in the last week. Then you've got 2, number 9, which is today, and 6. And then you've got 8, and then that's going to be number 11, I think, that middle one. And then number 10 is the one after that. So it's a really lovely little combination there. That's for our vintage colorway for the pack of 9. And then we've got that, are we doing that for the brights and the blues as well? Yay! So we've got that in our blues colorway as well. Look at that as well. So that shows you also all 9 blocks that we've done so far. So the kit that you'll be getting in this combination there for £107.91. It'll be everything that's got a number on. You'll be getting the panel for each of those as well as the instructions. That's numbers 1, 7, 5 in the first row, 4, 3. And then the third row will be 2, 9, and 6. Number 9 is the one I'm doing today. And then number 8. And you can put them how you like, because you can see the way, that's the way I've suggested that people lay it out. If you don't like that layout, that's fine. You can move it around. It's your quilt. And I've had a lot of messages saying, what do I do if my block's not exactly 15 inches? I'm a bit worried. This one's 15.5 inches. Don't worry. I've got a few little techniques on how you hide that all away and how you can save it all. Don't worry. And the thing is as well, I don't want people trimming or unpicking or doing it. Just, it's done. It doesn't matter. We will make it work, and I'll show you how in our last week. That's week 12. In week 12 we're going to have a 2-hour special, because that'll then be an additional thing you're doing, which is the borders and the backing, the borders and the sashings and the sashing stones as well. But don't forget, that's the first 2. We've also got our brights colorway. That is numbers 1, 7 and 5 in our colorway there. And you can see we've then got 4 and 3 in our second row. And then numbers 2, 9 and 6 in our third row. And then the last row we've got number 8. So those are the ones there. I have to say my favourite block of all of that might actually be the one we're doing today. But now what I want to ask is, and what I've loved is that I love the fact that there's so much social media involvement on this. And I love the fact that people are talking to each other when they post a block. You did not like block 7. You really didn't like block 7. But what I love is you've all stuck with it, and you've done it, and you've done it again. And if it's wrong, you've unpicked it and you've matched those points. Think back to week 1, where we just did a log cabin. Look at how your skills have improved. Look how much you've improved along the way. And this week, I'm taking off those training reels. There's no trimming down of your squares this week. You're going to make it work, and you're going to do it right, because you now all know what a scant 1/4 inch is. You know exactly what you're doing with a half square triangle. You know how to get it right. And you're going to be absolutely fine. And I am so proud of all of you with what you're doing. You've done really, really well on these, and I have to say, all the pictures online, you really are inspiring me to keep going, and I'm so, so proud of all of you. If you're just missing 1 or 2 blocks along the way, every single block, all the way from number 1 to number 9, in all 3 colorways, is all available on our website, so you can go and check those out and have a look for those. You don't have to worry about them. You've all got them. You can easily go and get them if you've missed one out, so that's all available for you, so do go and check that out. Now, each of you know every week when I make these, I lay this out as I go along. And the reason I lay these out as I go along, something's missing, that's right, because that's the side, is when I know that they're there and I know that they're right, I like to make sure that I've cut everything correctly and they're all ready to go. And this is a really easy way of being able to make sure that everything that you're doing and everything that you've done is working. You've got it in the right place, and that you've cut out enough pieces. And this way, if you've cut something bigger or smaller, you'll easily be able to tell that it's bigger or smaller, because it's not going to fit. And the great thing with that is you can then fix it before you actually go down the route of actually sewing everything together. I've got to just, there we go. That one's there. And that one's there, and we've got that one there, that one there, that one there, and that one there. Now I know you're looking at that and going, huh? So that is meant to be that. So you've always got your picture to do it. It's really, really great. And remember, my fabrics 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the picture are different to your fabrics 1, 2, 3, and 4 per design that you've taken. That's absolutely normal, and we've done it that way for a reason, to make sure that you can do it as safely and as comfortably as you can. Every time I do this, every time I do a block of the week, I forget to plug my iron in or disconnect my iron. So give me 30 seconds. I'm going to grab that and grab my gorgeous June Taylor pressing board. There's my June Taylor pressing board. I'm going to have that ready to go. Now, all of the instructions on how to do this are available in your pattern. It's really, really easy to do. So one or two of the things that I want to just keep you aware of is a lot of you have had problems with doing your half square triangles. So as we all know, you're going to line your half square triangle up. You're going to line everything up perfectly, and you can see that I've lined that up perfectly on the bottom. And on the side, they're exactly the same size. Remember what a 1/4 inch seam is and what a scant 1/4 inch seam is. If you have missed the tutorials on how we've done that, don't worry, they're all available. Weeks 6, 7, and 8, I've discussed it at length, so go back and watch those. If you're still a bit unsure, you'll easily be able to see that. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a scant 1/4 inch of about 2 threads, just to make sure that when I fold my triangle over, it's not going to be too big and it's not going to be too small. And I'm jumping around with my steps, but it's exactly the same thing all the way along. It's the same step all the way along. I think I'm doing step 2 at the moment, because I'm using what I've called my... Oh! Come on, my friend. Oh, we've all had this, haven't we? She's on a Friday holiday. She doesn't want to be doing this morning. Come on, darling. She wants to be on holiday. And I was going to use my 720 because I've already bought one, and now she probably feels affronted that I wasn't going to use her all along. I'm so sorry. She was having a nice little nap, and then I go and disturb that. There we go. My bobbins. Ah, that's what it is. My bobbins come undone in the wrong way. It's gone. So, oh, that's where it is. I found the issue. Whenever you do your bobbins, if you then wind your bobbin, you've got a long edgy bit over here hanging out like I did there. Your machine does not like it because it sucks up that little bit, and then it goes, nope, not going anywhere there. Nice little top tip that I've learnt over the years of screaming and shouting at inanimate objects for things they have not done wrong. Now, every single week that you get your panel, you are going to see you are left with loads left over. And what I loved, what I absolutely love, I can't remember how I pronounce Tina's surname, but Tina has gone and actually made a miniature version of this quilt, and using her scrap fabric, spare, left over, not finished, used with fabric. And I love that, and you've inspired something. So I have actually gone, and we're going to be talking about that, because what I'm loving is, if everybody can do me a little favour on social media, will you tell me how much fabric you've got left over at the end? Because I'm trying to think of a little project, because all of you are wanting to do more bits with your fabric and make more bits with this whole project. So let me know roughly how much fabric you've got. If you put it on your mat, you'll be able to see roughly whether you've got a fat 1/4 or 1/2 metre of all the fabric that you've got left, having made the blocks. Let me know how much you've got as fabric, because then that lets me know how big and how small I can make the extra projects that I want to make for you. So drop me that on a Facebook. That would be a really lovely thing to do. Please tag me in that. I'd love to see how much you've got. Now, as you know, I try and press my seams open. If you've never pressed your seams open before, this is a nice way of being able to give it a go. And try it. If you normally press your seams open and you haven't pressed your seams to the dark side, this is a nice way of being able to press your seams to the dark side, because you can then try it and see what works well for you. Because certainly when I'm sewing strip sets together, I do find putting it to the dark side does work a lot better, because you can nest your seams a lot better as well. Whereas pressing them open, you don't get quite as good a match of nestling. But I find with doing triangles and things like that, I do prefer having my seams pressed open. So it's just one of those nice ways of being able to do your skills improvement, and also just find out what works best for you. And again, I always set my seams first because we use polyester, so that just gives the thread a bit of a zap up. And then I press that open. I don't know what's happened to my little prim iron. You know how I love my little prim iron. This one's here today. It's gone for a little walkabout, I think. It's all right. We don't mind if people go for a little walkabout. They always come back. Or it's probably sitting right under the table here and I've just not seen it for looking. I'm quite famous for doing that in the studio. I'll be like holding the June Taylor in my hand and saying, "Where's the June Taylor gone? I can't find it." So, what I've done now, this is exactly per the pattern. I've now sewn all my half square triangles together. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these two together to be able to make a mini flying geese. Now I know a lot of you have asked, why are you just not doing these as flying geese? You're quite right, you can easily do them, but what I wanted to make sure that I had was everybody perfecting the flying geese situation, because I think that's one of the few things that a lot of people don't actually focus on to get right. So what I'm going to do here is, now you can trim your edges off, I'm just on telly, so I'm trying to do this as quick as I can. So what you're trying to do is you're lining your squares, your half square triangles up completely. You're then going to line these two lines up. Hold those nice and firm, and I'm going to start sewing from this end towards this end, from here to here, along that line. And you're quite right, doing this as a flying goose would have worked, or flying geese would have worked better, but I wanted everybody to practice their half square triangles, because it's one of those techniques that not everybody is able to perfect, and doing it repetitively all through this project, how much better are your half square triangles now than they were? It just makes it's a skill builder, and what this whole process was to improve your skills, to make sure that you were feeling much more comfortable about your half square triangles than you were before we started the process. But certainly from what I've seen online, your skills have improved tenfold. I had a lady go on there saying that her first block was so bad and she just feels so proud of herself because she's done so much better on the 7th block than she did on the 1st. And the 7th block was not easy. It was not an easy block. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sewing these squares, these 2 pink squares, onto here. Now I am jumping around a little bit on the pattern. And that's absolutely fine. You'll see when you get to that point. Now, if your square doesn't fit exactly into that triangle, you've done something wrong. So if your square, you can see here, my pink square is completely the size of my half square triangle. If it doesn't, have a check on the back. There are 2 reasons it's happened. Either your seam allowance is out, or when you cut your square is either too big or too small from what it should be, or your triangles are too big or too small from what they should be. So don't worry about it. If it's a little bit bigger, no one's ever given a quilt back for a point not matching. It's about the love and the care. If you are interested in just seeing why it's happened, take your ruler out, have a little bit of a measure, see what's gone wrong. Is it the fact that you didn't use a scant 1/4 inch, or was your scant 1/4 inch too scant or too big? That is one of the 2 reasons that it would happen. And don't worry, just next time when you do it, make sure you use the correct scant 1/4 inch, and it doesn't matter. As I said, no one's ever I've never heard of anybody giving a quilt back for not having a perfect point. And if they do, they're not taking it in the love and joy and care that you made it for them. And they don't deserve that quilt. You can send it to me, because I'd love it. Don't send me your quilts, please. I have about 4 million quilts at home, and my husband keeps looking at me going, "You do realise we have a heating system?" I'm like, "Yes, darling. Yes, darling." So there we go. You can see I'm pressing my seams open again. And there we go. So what you'll find in the pattern is, I don't know what step I'm about to do. Let's have a look. So what I've done is I've done steps 3, 4, and 5, and now I'm going to do step 8. Am I doing step 8? Yes, I'm doing step 8, because I'm just jumping around. So previously what I've done is that once you've got your blocks and you've sewn these together, you will pretend that's not here. You're going to sew those onto the sides like that. You're going to make 2 of these, put them to one side. You're going to make 2 of these and you're going to sew them on. And then step 8 is you're going to sew both of these onto the sides over here. Now, this is now where you've got to pay attention. These are the points. If you're wanting to match your points, here's where you just have to pay a bit of attention. You can see here, I have not matched the point. Oh well, no one died, it's fine. Their point is perfection. You will not get a better point. Everything lines up. So for me, 50% is brilliant. That is 10 times better than I thought it would be. I thought the whole thing would just collapse under me. That one, it lines up perfectly there with my green line. My pink line is good. That one's out. Oh well. See, you've just got to have that. Oh well, doesn't matter. Because I've had this in my bag getting in today, this has gone over there. So there we go, I'm just pressing those open again. So when you want to line these points up, the points that you're looking to match are these. So your block is going to go together like this. So the first point you want to line up is this seam over here needs to run in symmetry together. Okay? Then equally, these two over here need to run together. But if that's not difficult enough, you've got to take that little point there and that little point there to match up. So it is one of those ones where you're just looking and say, John, are you actually having a laugh? Are you actually having a laugh? Don't worry. Now, if you miss a point, remember everything is on the bias on these triangles. So if you're going to miss a point, and you do miss a point by accident, do not unpick the whole seam. If you miss this point, unpick from there to about there, finagle your fabric to the right point, and then sew again. Do not unpick the whole thing because you're going to distort the whole fabric and then everything goes wonky. If you are going to unpick anything, and I beg you, just accept that you didn't get the point. It's okay. If you hit the point, woohoo! If you don't, oh well, no one's going to be upset about it. It's just a learning curve. You're just going to try and do the learning curve on that. Now, I've hidden my pins under here. I know, I got asked beforehand, have you got everything that you need? And I'm like, I'm sure I do. I don't. It's always the way. So in order to try and maximize your ability to match this point, you're going to take a pin. So when I'm sewing this over here, you can see where this is another way where having your seams pressed open makes your life a little easier. So where the cream on here and the green meet the pink, that is the actual exact folding point that we're wanting it to be. So if I'm sewing, I do not want to be sewing here because I will miss the point drastically. And I equally don't want to be sewing over there because you're going to have that massive lump of cream. So ideally, you're wanting your needle to go one hair that side. So when you fold it over, it's folded over at the exact point you want it to be. So I'm going to look very closely at it and I'm going to push that through there, and you can see that is the point I want my needle to go through. Okay? So over here, now first of all, check you've got it the right way. I do. Over here, exactly the same thing. I'm wanting my needle to go through at that point there rather than over here. There we go. So there, I don't want my point going through there, and I don't want my point going through halfway down there. I'm wanting it to go exactly through there. So you can see that I've now got that point. So if you've got your needle in there, I've let my pin in there, so you can see I've now left my pin completely alone. I haven't done anything with it. All I'm doing is I'm lining up this edge here. Okay? Lining that edge up here. And now when I do that, can you see that my pin is all wobbly? So now I turn the fabric so that the pin is in a straight line, and then I hold this bit over here so that when I move my pin, the fabric's not moving. So I hold that nice and tight, and then I use my fingers and I feel for where the seams are lined up. I go back, and this is where literally it takes a bit of finagling and a little bit of manipulation. So what I'm trying to do is I'm holding the fabric with my index finger and my thumb nice and taut, and then I push that needle down through the seam. So you can see I'm on this side of the seam there, and I'm on that side of the seam there. That doesn't matter, provided you're in exactly the same place on both sides. If on this seam I was on the pink, and on this seam I was on the grey, do it again, because what's happened is you've just moved this piece over a little bit, which means that this seam that we're trying to line up here will end up looking like mine did there, when ideally you're wanting it to look exactly like that. So you can see what I mean. That is the perfect seam there. Oh well. We're very close, and I'm not worried. So I normally don't use pins at all, which please, if you feel comfortable using pins, use your pins. If you don't want to use your pins, no one's going to be cross with you. Do what feels comfortable for you. So now, again, this is where your 1/4 inch comes in really, really handy. And now I am 90% sure I'm going to miss both points and it's going to be horrible. So we're going to go with that it's going to be horrible. And I'll be enthusiastically surprised if it's not. So my needle is now at the point of about 4 stitches away from hitting the point that I wanted my pin to be in. So I've taken my pin out. Oh, that looks beautiful from this side. Probably ruined it from the other side, but anyway. No one can say I didn't try. Right. Now I'm not using a pin on this side, and my thread hit my seam twisted a little bit there. Okay. Is that right? Perfect. Hopefully. Cross your fingers. Oh, we've had a message in from Christine. Morning, Christine. Christine saying she's new to quilting and she was getting all stressed out about seams not matching, but she loves watching today, and now it doesn't really matter. We're going to go with 3 out of 4 ain't bad. I'm sorry, I'm incredibly surprised by that. But that is what you're looking for. That is the exact thing that you're looking for. I've actually just got my arms in the air like I just don't care. And I literally am like this because I think every time you get your points right, you have to do this. You need to celebrate it. And if you don't, have a cookie. Just have a cookie and feel better. But that is exactly what you're looking for. You're wanting, and that is the perfect example. You've got this seam lined up. You've got that seam lined up. You've just got your squares kissing perfectly there. It is exactly what you're looking for. That is perfect. Absolutely over the moon, thrilled. Just don't even look at it because it's perfect. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Frame it now as it is. That's perfect. Ever again. So now again, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set my seam. And again, I'm pressing my seams open on this project now. So I just push this open. And there we go. You can see, oh, I've folded that one in. That'll happen a lot, don't worry. So there we go. That is what it's going to look like from the front. And I've got 3 perfect points, which is a lot more than I was expecting. So I'm going to take that and be very happy with that. So my next step is, I'm just going to double check with the pattern what number it is. I told you I was jumping around. We're now going to do number 9. So you'll see I've made 3 of these. So this is step 10. Making this is step 10. So I've already made 3 of those because it is quite a complicated block and I wasn't going to have time to do all of it. So actually, I'm now going to do 1 of these for you, and I'm just checking I've got it the right way around. So the step 9, I think it's step 9, yes, step 9 is sewing these 2 together. So just like these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these right on top of each other. Check that they measure the same, and this one doesn't, and the reason being is I've used 2 different sewing machines to do this. So at this point, you're going to get the rotating cutting mat that you've hidden so carefully from yourself. Oh, there it is. I've got it ready for my next demo, that's what it was. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trim this down to the correct size. Oh, it's almost there. I do that every time. I get the rotating cutting mat out and I don't use the rotating cutting, I just turn it. Okay, so that's the one. I think this is the one that was slightly too big, and it is not by a lot. And you can see this is how much wastage you've got on it. That's when you know you're doing it perfectly correctly, is when you've only got that little bit of wastage. That means your 1/4 inch seam is perfect. That is exactly, if anything, you are half a thread, using your half a thread too narrow on your seam, so don't worry about that. But that is what you're looking for there. So now I'm going to sew these. Oh, this one's the one that I was trying to trim after all that. This one is slightly bigger. Oh, it's slightly smaller. Right, so that then just shows you that's a really good tip, because this is going to happen to you as well. And as you know, I am not one for unpicking, especially when you've got bias involved, because it will cause a problem. And you have got extra fabric, so you can re-sew this without a problem. But I'm going to show you a nice simple trick for doing this. So this one is slightly too small, okay? And when I say slightly too small, it is one, I'm just getting these the right way around, it is one hair too small on this. So what I do is I lay the piece I'm sewing it to down, and I can see that the thread is over here. But what I do is I put them down on top of each other, and I make that difference in the center. So what I mean is, let's say this was I don't have a smaller block. So let's say that this middle one was much, much smaller. What I would do is I would split the difference. So I would have some of the difference being there and some of the difference being here. I wouldn't have it just in one corner, because then you're easing that difference out and you won't be able to see it as easily as if you just put it in one corner. So you split the difference if your block is slightly smaller. And by slightly, I mean 1, 2 threads. If it's more than that, just cut yourself 2 new triangles and do it again. You have enough fabric. That's why we've given you so much more fabric. Just make sure, you've got loads there, so we want to make sure that you're getting it done as quickly as you can and accurately as you can. So this is the perfect example here. You can see I'm 2 threads too big over here. You can barely see it, but you can see I'm 2 threads out there. So what I do is I move it over that I'm 1 thread out there and I'm 1 thread over there. So that is where, so that's how I'm going to sew it there. So I'm 1 thread over here and I'm 1 thread over here. And that way then the difference is so tiny, you lose it that way, and you're not going to be, it won't be visible as if you just put it in one corner. And there we go. So keep referring to the diagram, because I have sewn this multiple times and multiple times I've gotten it wrong. So that is totally normal. Don't worry. And I think that's what I love about this, is that it is made by quilters, for quilters. So all the little errors that I've come across, I'm going to let you know. And of course, as I just finished that bit, my bobbin ran out. So you're going to have to forgive me multitasking over here while I trim that down. Oh, no. Every time I have to unthread a machine, I hear Jenny Raymond screaming in my voice saying, "Do not pull the thread from the top." Whoa. And we have a little bag of threads. I love this. I love this because not everybody gets to see the behind the scenes. We've got everything in there apart from white and grey. This is the last grey in the bundle, because it's the most, oh gosh, I'm putting the bobbin on the end there to hold the thing on. Right, so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to wind my bobbin. Very professional, this. But you all do it, you've all done this before. Normally not on national television with time crunches to make this work. Oh, come on. Does anybody else have that problem where you get that wind on and it doesn't go? Oh, come on. Be nice to me today. There we go. So it's having a moment. I think she wants a little bit of helping hand on this. Oh. Come on, my darling. Anyone else talk to their sewing machine when it's having a moment? I'm pretty sure not everybody's being as kind to their sewing machines when they're having a moment than I am trying to be with this one. Right, that's more than enough for our little piece there. Thank you for bearing with me during that. We do fill them up for everybody, and then what happens is that we forget to look at them sometimes, and then go on air and we're like, oops! But we've all had that. So the great thing is that you know that this is real. You know I'm not making this up, because normally I mess up so much, but there we go. Right, so now I'm back to this point now, and you're going to make 4 of these as per your step 10, I think it is. Just double check. Yes, this is your step 10. You're going to make 4 of these. So 2 of the 4 that you're going to have made are going to be sewn onto your step 8 block, which we've already made. And then 2 of them are going to have squares put onto either side. So I'm going to try very hard to do this at the same time. There is no right way of doing it. Just do what works best for you. Follow the pattern if you want to, whatever works. So now you can tell I've got 4 of these. Oh, helps if I put them the right way around. I've got 4 of those. And then 2 of them are going to have the white squares sewn onto the sides. And those 2 are going to get sewn onto there. Now, when you're sewing these on here, remember you're trying to get that point there. You're trying to get those 2 points there. And you're trying to get that point there. On top of trying to keep your lines there, and your lines there, and your line there. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to do it freehand. And I'm not going to use a pin. You pin if you want to. I'm going to give it a go and see how I go. I'll probably miss it entirely, but that's why you're a better sewer than I am. You can say I'm so much better than that John off the telly, innit? And I don't mind. It's long. Oh, you know what? You can't be this grumpy with me all the time. Come on, my darling. I've given you a new bobbin and everything. Have I unthreaded you? Boom, boom, boom. Getting a little bit of scrap. I can't believe I'm using the Tilda apple butter as scrap. It's possibly the nicest fabric we have. There we go. Right, so I am now popping, taking a deep breath because she is going to be gorgeous. Now, there you go. Thank you, darling. Thank you, darling. Anybody else stroke their little machines when they're behaving nicely? Okay, so that one worked. Now, this is the key one, the center one over here, and you just do the best you can. Perfect. And then this one's a little bit easier because you're just matching one triangle up. Again, I'm hoping for 2. I will take 2 being perfect. Oh, I got 3. I'm going to take that. I think that's quite all right. Quite happy with that. So that's the one side. Now I'm going to do exactly the same over here. Now again, I'm matching that grey dot up there. I'm lining those 2 up perfectly there and that there, as well as, and you can see I've kept my lines absolutely perfect there. You're trying to do that again if you can. And again, if you don't, it doesn't matter. No one's going to be upset with you. I think normally we're more upset with ourselves than other people being upset with us. So there we go. Now, thank you, my darling. I got one. So this one, hopefully. Two out of three ain't bad. So you can see that one's perfect, and this one's a hair out. So this is going to be your step number 11. So we're now going to put these together, and again I'm going to set my seams first, and then I'm going to press those open. So you can see the training wheels have come off. This is a little bit more complicated. You've got a few more little things to focus on to line up, but look how far you've come. Look how much you've done already. And if you've forgotten, go and look on Facebook where you posted all your pictures of these as you went along. And the great thing as well, if you've missed anything about maybe my machine breaking down and you just want to giggle, or just me being excited about missing one or getting 1 point rather than 4 of them, you can go back and watch every single one of the shows for the block of the week. They're pulled out as separate hours, and you'll easily be able to go back and check and see where you are for each one of those. Even if you just want to go back and watch it and just to watch it. I had a lovely compliment from somebody the other day saying that they thought my voice was very soothing and they could sew better with me in the background. My husband laughed for hours. He thought you were very, very funny. My husband has not had a meal cooked for him for a week. And there we go. To be fair, I can't say that. He does all the cooking. I've not been in the kitchen for years. It's wonderful. So there we go, and don't forget these June Taylor pressing mats. They're absolutely brilliant. So there we go, we've done that. Now the last bit of the step is I'm going to show you, just going to sew these squares onto either edge here. Now over here, remember I said to you when something's a little bit larger, you can see over here, that's a very good way of showing you. My triangle is 2 threads too big compared to the square. They're meant to be identical sizes. So I'm going to put my square in the middle of that over edge. Can you... So if I put that over there, actually, you can see... So you can see I'm a thread over there and I'm a thread over here. So instead of putting my triangle over there and being out on that edge, or putting it over there and being out on that edge, I'm splitting the difference. So I'm allowing there to be a slightly larger seam on this side and on that side, but I'm keeping my 1/4 inch in line there. All right, so that's just what I meant to you earlier, that if you are slightly bigger, split the difference and put it in the middle, and that way then all of your sides would then, in theory, everything should be equal at the end of the day. Brilliant. And then again, you're going to do pressure. I'm going to set my seams. And then I press these open. And again, if you haven't pressed open before, try it, see what you think. If you haven't pressed to the dark side or to one side, try it for one of these blocks. See what you think, see what works best for you. I just love being able to say, I pressed to the dark side. And there we go. So I'm only going to be able to sew one of these on today for you, only because I'm going to let you do the other, because it's exactly the same. So just like I lined these up here, I'm going to make sure that these lines line up. And then that triangle point meets and that triangle point meets. Now, as I'm doing this, I can see one of my seams or two of my seams is not going to line up. Okay, can you, if I do that, you can see that one's perfect, that one's perfect, that one's perfect, That one's almost perfect, and that one's perfect. So I now know that one of these, if not two of these, lining up processes is not going to work. That's okay. So I'm going to select that these middle two aren't going to line up, and I think it's more important that you have this one line up and that one. If you have to lose two, and we're talking at one thread. We're not talking as if it was like half a meter away. So if you're going to have to outdo those, rather get the centers lined up. And again, you're doing exactly the same as you did before, trying to line those triangles up absolutely perfectly to hit that point. And pin all the way along if you want to. Do it freestyle like I am. Whatever works for you, just do what works for you. But also, I've heard a very good tip from quilters all over the years, and these were from quilt judges, that they always ignore the bottom left-hand corner, because normally your eye doesn't go to the bottom left-hand corner of anything. So if you have got a quilt block that's a little bit freestyle, shall we say, then stick it in the bottom left-hand corner and hope nobody looks there. I just can't believe we're on week 9. It's only 3 more blocks to go. This week has flown by. Not been without its entertainment. I'm very sorry I wasn't here on Wednesday. My lovely brand new car has a nice big expensive build to be repaired now. So all I'm doing now is I'm pressing this open. I'm not even going to look because I'm sure it's terrible. It's not too bad actually. And even if it is, I don't care. It's finished. So there we go. I do find the more layers you've got here, pressing open does get a little bit more difficult, but it's better to press them open at this point, because if and when you do get it quilted, if you have got a giant lump there, whether you're sending it to a long arm or doing it yourself, as your needle hits that giant lump, you're going to end up with a problem with the quilting and you'll have a couple of stitches missed. So it's best to try and get this lined up perfectly now and pressing it open. Well, that's not too bad. And now that it's all on together, I give that a nice little zap. Yep, I'm going to take that. These 3 of those are perfect. One's almost perfect and one's 1 stitch out. I am very happy with that. And then you're going to sew the rest of the block on exactly the same as you did the top. You're going to sew that down on the bottom. And I will say that if your fabric is misbehaving, I don't steam it until it's all sewn together. And then just give it a nice good blast of steam, and your block's nice and flat, and that's there. It's a beautiful, beautiful block, and I know that it's one of those patterns that you're going to use for years to come. And unfortunately, I've got it on the metric side, so I can't measure if my block's the same. But there we go. So all you're going to do is repeat exactly the same process over there, line that up perfectly, and that's block 9. So if you want your vintage colourway, I've just realised I've got the vintage quilt here, so let me show you what the finished vintage quilt looks like. It's been freshly ironed. So this is the vintage colourway, which has definitely been the most popular. I'm just checking which way around I've got the quilt. Now what I'm loving is the fact that I know 2 or 3 people have actually bought 2 or 3 different colorways of this, and they're actually mixing and matching the blocks. So perhaps one week you want to put a blue block in, and you can have it as a totally mixed quilt. And the great thing is as you saw in the pictures earlier, they all come out at different sizes. So this quilt is actually going to be 66 inches by 82.5 when it's finished. So this is such a lovely way of doing it. And I love the fact all the team here are actually taking part and doing this. So I'm going to put that one here just so you can see the vintage way, because it's been the most popular all the way along. And I'm going to learn from my mistakes, and I'm going to disconnect my iron now because everybody forgets. And there we go. So that's the vintage colorway. We've also got our gorgeous blues colorway here as well. It's this block here that we've just made this week. And we've now made 9 blocks in our quilt. Do you mind taking that graphic out? There you go. So this is the quilt block we've just made there. Really, really lovely block there. And then the Brights one is definitely Liam's favourites here. And I think it's really vibrant and very punchy. That's the block we've just made now. But I do think that the great thing with these colourways, the blues and the brights, you could very easily mix and match those, which would be a really great way of doing it. Maybe doing 6 in one colour, 6 in another. But please, on Facebook, please pop a post on saying how much fabric you've got left and what block you're up to. So just that way, then I can get some, there are plans afoot. So we can see where you are. But it's a really, really lovely quilt. And the great thing is the social side of things, everybody's being able to get involved. None of us can go anywhere or do anything at the moment. So it's a nice way of being able to do something together and get involved and stay in touch with each other as well. And if you haven't started yet, we've got those wonderful bundles, which are from block 1 to block 9 in 3 different colourways. We've got these wonderful pictures that we've got of showing you all the different blocks on those as well. We had those earlier on in the show. And having said that, I can hear that Kat's frantically trying to find them for us. Bear with, bear with. I say that a lot, sorry. I'm stealing Miranda's thing. So this is the vintage colourway. That quilt is 66 inches by 82.5 when it's finished. That one is going to be getting blocks 1 to 9. So you'll see the first row at the top is 1, 7 and 5. The second row down, you've got 4 and 3. The last block in row 2 is going to be block 12. So that hasn't happened yet. Then in the third row, you've got 2, 9 and 6. And then the very last row, you've got block 8, and then it's blocks 10 and 11. I just can't remember which way round I've done them. I think we've got 10 is the middle one and 11 is the end one. I can't remember. So that's the vintage colourway. We've also got our blue colourway as well. This is also very popular. We've again, you've got the same blocks on that, exactly the same blocks each week. That is definitely the wrong graphic because that is, there we go, that's it. So that's, oh no, that's the vintage one. I tell you, these gremlins are all over the set today. There we go. So that's blocks 1 to 9 in the blue Welcome Quilt Kit, fabric panels 1 to 9 and instructions 1 to 9, £107.91. And you've got all 9 blocks there labelled in there. And then lastly, we've got the Brights colourway as well. And we think it's just nice that if you haven't joined in and you like the look of the quilt, it's a good size. You can then join in with that as well. There are 12 blocks in the series. So there's the Brights colourway there. Blocks 1, 7, 5 on the top row. Next one is 4 and 3, and I think it's 12 on the second row. The third row is now finished as well. 2, 9 and 6. And then block 8, and then you've got 12... 10 and 11 on that row as well. So it's a really, really lovely quilt. Nice way of being able to be involved. All the videos and tutorials that I've done since block 1 are all on YouTube. If you haven't been onto our YouTube page, just go onto YouTube, type in Sewing Street, it'll pop up. Make sure you subscribe and you get notified of new videos coming up every day. And then you'll be able to see every single tutorial for the way. So after the break, we have got some Dresden plate rulers, we've got some isosceles triangle rulers, we've got our crazy scrapwork rulers, and we've got tilde. I was able to cut up the tilde fat 8s. I'm very excited because that fabric is so beautiful. I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Where have I hidden it? Where have I hidden it? Where have I hidden it? Look at this. Just look how beautiful that looks. And these are from fat 8s. Most of us don't use fat 8s, but you'll be astonished how much you get out of a block of fat 8s. So join us after the break for that. We're just going to redo the set. See you in a few minutes.